As you can see here, these little flaps, they're in your way. Okay. It's going to be hard to see in here, but as you can see, let me grab a light. Might help us if we get some high intensity light in there. Hold on. All right. So, everything that you see here has to be removed. You have to keep those flaps out of your way. You can't see them, but down inside the radio, way down inside the radio, on the back side of this, there are screws on that panel. You can take those screws off right there, and this thing will lift up, but there's a catch. There's a million wires hooked onto that, and there's really no room. So what you got to do is you got to loosen all these screws. Okay, there's a screw here, there's a screw over here, screw here, to basically hold that metal chassis on. And that chassis is slotted, so you can shove that chassis over about 1/8 of an inch either direction. Now, that gives you barely enough room to get at some of the screws, but you can't get them out. You literally have to take the transformer out. You have to take this little panel off right here, right? And I broke wires off, getting it off, right? Got it off. There's wires everywhere. It's spaghetti. They never designed this radio to be fixed. So, once you get all that off, you can lift the chassis up, and there's screws hidden underneath on the back side of this and on the bottom. 4 screws hold this panel up here for these switches. And hold on one second. All right. Give me 1 second. This panel here pops up. It's spring loaded. You can lift this up. Okay. Once you get all that out, you have to physically pull that chassis out without breaking any wires. But you can get at the hidden screws on the back side of here. Now, once you get all that done, you still can't get at the dial string. It is that buried. Okay, so if you break a dial string, you're literally on your own. Okay, so once you get all that out, this one here, the dial was off, the meter didn't work, I had bulbs out. You can get at them once this comes off. And it was a son of a gun. It took me all day, you know. And I said to myself, when I get this back together again, I'm probably going to break a wire somewhere and it's not going to work, and I have to trace it down. There's no schematics. There's no manual online. There's only one video online about a guy saying, don't take it apart. But I like a good challenge, and I got it. I beat it. The radio didn't work when I got it. It works now. Get a screwdriver here, get a knob. One of the knobs off it. Does work now. All the lights work. But I want to tell you, if I had to do it again, I wouldn't do it. All these switches, they're push button switches, and they got slide contacts, were filthy. I mean, I had to literally douse them with deoxit and air. All these were dirty, and they were loose. Had dial light bulbs out. If you found one of these brand new in the frickin' box, I mean brand new, never touched, okay, just don't play with it. All right? Because I guarantee you it's going to break, and when it does, you're going to just cry in your beer. It's just one of them things. This is probably the worst radio I've ever worked on. And I always wanted one of these until this one came in, and I realized after that it's so badly designed to work on that I wouldn't want one myself. Now, another thing I don't like is you notice how it's got the real small knobs, even the tuning knobs, real small. That's dumb. A tiny tuning knob is going to be hard to fine tune. It needs a knob about this size, so you got a little more control over the tuning. So I'm going to put a new center in that knob, one like this, and I'm going to make it larger. I still have the original knob, but I'm going to make a better tuning knob for this. I think it will work much better. There's just a few things that weren't designed good. It should have had twin antennas. It's only got one. It's not even that long. You know, that's not very impressive. It does swivel and stuff, but it's not that long. It's got a lot of good features. The thing I like about it the most is all the bands. You got AM, shortwave 1, 2, VHF 1, FM air, VHF 2. I mean, it's got a lot of bands, and they all work now. They didn't when I got it, but they all work now. It's got a BFO, which is kind of rudimentary. It works. It's got this band spread. You can tweak it. It's a real simple BFO. It's not really a good BFO. And it's got AFC for FM. That works now. And it's got, several jacks down here for tape input, phone, auxiliary. I mean, yes, it's kind of cool. But I really think they could have done a lot better job. 70 to 74. It was probably pretty expensive back in the day, probably at least $100. It's a cool radio. It's a cool concept. I really like it. But man, oh man, don't buy one of these on eBay with a broken dial string or a bunch of lights out or something wrong with it. You'll never get it fixed unless you really got a lot of freaking energy and hardcore determination. Because I tell you, I had to pull out everything to get this fixed. And I had to fix it right because it's for a customer, and it was just a pain. And I spent way more time than I'd ever get to charge anyone for. It's just one of those things. I'm not going to make any money on it. So that's the realistic Astronaut 8. I hope this helps some. If you buy one, make sure it's cheap, make sure it's mint, make sure that everything works, and you're okay for now. Don't buy one with problems because you're never going to get them fixed. Like I said, I'd buy one if it was new in the box, but otherwise, I probably wouldn't buy one. So I had to rebuild the battery box too. The battery box was corroded and the center had rotted out. Okay. So I put a brass nut in there, soldered it, put that brass nut in there. That was rotted out right there. Cleaned up those springs with deoxit, and then I coated the springs with some super lube so they won't rust anymore. So that's working. Still got a lot of cleaning to do. But like I say, you really have to take that. You got to slide that chassis back and forth. You got to pop this up. You got to pull the antenna all the way up, and then you got to pry those doors open on the back that don't come off, either with 2 clamps or 2 screwdrivers to hold it open while you're working on it. You're going to have to unhook a lot of wires, and you're going to have to pray you don't break anything taking it apart. So I hope this helps on the realistic Astronaut 8 Pine Tree State Restorations. And we will be back with I think we've got a General Electric Searcher coming up next. A vintage 4-channel self-tuning programming scanner. Kind of cool. I got to check it out. But this is the realistic Astronaut 8. And thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.